Welcome back to Shark Tank. I'm here with Mr. Wonderful and Mark Cuban somewhere around here. And what do we do on this show?
A lot of stuff. Very
Oh.
nice, very evil stuff.
All right. Well, buy a company and then I'll make $1 million, I think.
I kind of want to skip all the pleasantries, but welcome back to the Smart Tank Revolution where we always kick out at 2. I am your host, Donnie Wonderful, and I'm getting straight to it. My so-called friends on social media who know that I was a huge wrestling mark back in the 90s and an even greater wrestling mark today, but they know how much I was enamored with Bret the Hitman Hart. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever, right? So I get sent all the memes, everything that goes against the Hitman, a lot of Montreal screw job stuff, every Survivor series, and we go back and forth. There's a few people who are on my mailing list. We go back and forth. I get it. I was sent an article. Now, this happens to be the ultimate level of disrespect right here. This article. And it says, and it's titled, it's from Inside Ropes, written by Connor Renshaw, published February 23rd, 2024. So roughly maybe what was that? 2 weeks ago? Precisely. 2 weeks ago. Today is March 14th, 2024. The title of this article is The Former WWE Champion Who Labeled Bret Hart as Overrated. All right, you've already got me here. You've piqued my interest. I'm not even going to mention your name, but okay. All right. And I said, okay, this is going to be an interesting read because I was going down the list of wrestlers whom I thought would have said this. And I'm going to read this article. Then I'm going to try to dissect it a little bit, but I said, okay, this is too blatant to be Hunter, right? Triple H in his role wouldn't have said anything like this, especially with a WWE legend that may be under like a merchandising contract, something like that, because that can hinder sales. So I was trying to think of other wrestlers who didn't like Bret as much, and said, well, I don't remember Vader being too high on Bret, except for Vader was never a WWE champion. So that's when my game stopped. And before I even read any of it, I just scrolled down to see who it was. And it was Psycho Sid. And so let me read this. I remember hearing him say something like that. But I also remember hearing Bret on what Timeline 1992 um, talk about how it was easy to get Sid worked up. And I didn't think that Bret Hart said anything that was disrespectful or anything that was remotely even derogatory, come to think of it. But this is interesting. So I'll leave the link to the article in case you want to read it. Or, if you don't want to read it, you want to hear me read it, you want me to hear me get through it as fast as possible, turn the speed up. It'll be fun. So, former WWE champion Psycho Sid stirred the wrestling community with his views on the iconic rivalry between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Bam, right there. That's why he's going to say it. Because I don't think anyone in their right mind would ever say that Bret Hart is overrated. And I'm going to get to that. Matter of fact, I'm going to get to it now. Like, nobody's going to say Bret Hart's overrated. And everyone always talks about, well, his promos aren't the best and he can't speak on the mic. That's nonsense. Because even in the new generation era, Bret presented himself as a professional. So it seemed like it was real. If you're really going to wrestle someone, you're really going to say the stuff that Bret said on the most part. Like Bret wasn't ducking any challenges. Like everything was real simple. I also work boxing media. I equated Bret's promo style to a fighter that's fighting pre-fight press conferences, the build up to it. Now, yes, Shawn Michaels was a better promo. I get it. And the whole idea for promo is to sell the fight. Shawn did it more colorfully. I'm not going to even debate that. Bret did it in a manner I thought that was more you'll see it by like UFC guys and boxing guys. You don't really need a lot of personality to it. As I want to reference Terrence Crawford, right? Um, you all don't know, Terrence Crawford, well, before he got stripped, was the unified 100 welterweight champion at 147 pounds, defeated Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford is all about business. He will give you emotion, but for the most part, when you ask him anything before the fight, he's focused, he's dialed in. You'll see on the date of the fight, so on and so forth. That's what encapsulates Bret Hart's early 90s promo style to me. All right, so I'll continue, and I'll try not to cut out of this article until I'm done. All right, it's actually really not long. All right, so Sid expressed his belief that Bret Hart may have been overrated, while Shawn Michaels may have been underrated during their wrestling careers. Hmm. Sid's candid assessment in an interview with WrestlingInc.com delved into his experience working with Shawn Michaels in the WWE during the mid 90s, a period when Michaels was often perceived as difficult to work with. A period, huh? It sounded like Michaels had his period most of the time he was working in the 90s, fusing it to jobs. And I'm just playing. All right. However, Sid contradicted this notion, stating that he found Michaels to be easy to work with and that any negative reputation surrounding him was unjustified. Sid acknowledged that while Michaels made some mistakes, they were not significant enough to warrant the reputation he garnered. Okay, that's his opinion. None of us were actually there. He was, so I can respect that. The former WWE champion emphasized that he never witnessed Michaels having difficulty working with anyone except for Hart. Sid highlighted Michaels's relentless efforts to deliver exceptional performances, particularly in his matches with Hart. He credited Michaels for his lack of ego and willingness to ensure the quality of their matches. I'm sorry. Contrasting this with what he perceived as Bret Hart's self-centered approach. And we have a quote that says, I never saw anyone that had a hard time except maybe for Bret. Even with that, Shawn worked really hard to have good matches with him. Some of the first three-way matches that ever took place, at least the first that I've ever done, were with me and Shawn and Bret. Really, what made those three-way matches was Shawn. He didn't have an ego like Bret did, where Bret would say, I don't know if this is good for Bret Hart. Just silly stuff like that. Furthermore, Sid pointed out what he perceived as a red flag in Hart's behavior, citing Hart's tendency to speak in the third person as an indication of potential issues in their working relationship. Sid went on to say that he thinks that Hart may have been overrated in his career, while Michaels may have been underrated. Quote number two, Bret was a little overrated where Shawn maybe wasn't rated highly enough. Okay, I understand everybody's entitled to their opinion. Sid, this may have been your encounter with Bret, right? So I'm not going to call you a liar, and I'm not saying that he's not truthful. Maybe that happened, right? But I'm going to substantiate my claims based on what other opinions of Shawn were in during that time. Jim Cornette called him a prick. There are countless wrestlers such as Bam Bam Bigelow and who called out his behavior during the time of the Click. I mean, so here in this regard, you're outnumbered. We've never heard the public has never heard Brett ever speak in third person, as far as I'm concerned. I don't recall, but not saying that you need another person to substantiate this claim, because like I said, could have happened. It's just the general consensus, even from the man himself. Shawn Michaels said he was difficult to work with back then. The Undertaker, the locker room leader, and I quote, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously. But if Sean was on, I wouldn't piss on him to put him out. If Sean was on fire, I wouldn't piss on him to put him out. Whatever, y'all know what he said. You go find out what he said. You're overruled here by saying that. And this sounds like it's more personal. Yes, you and Sean had a better working relationship because your second WWF run at the time, he brought you in to be his bodyguard. It's easy to say that. It is easy to say that. This would be like what Scottie Pippen is doing now. You have 6 rings with MJ. How dare you say LeBron is better than him? People are going to look at you like, what? You're saying this? So we would expect you to say that. Now, like again, the triple threat match that he referenced, okay, that could have happened. Or maybe that did happen. But to say that people didn't think that Michaels was what do you say? Michaels wasn't rated highly enough. There are people that say Shawn Michaels can go out and work with a broomstick. I've heard Triple H say that. I heard Undertaker say that. I heard Mankind, Mick Foley, say it's impossible for Shawn Michaels to have a bad match. Jeff Jarrett at his Hall of Fame induction speech shouted out Shawn Michaels for that incredible Intercontinental title match. What are we talking about? Shawn Michaels' work rate was never in question. How is he underrated? In my opinion, and in the opinion of many, many people, many smarks, many pundits, in his 40s, him and The Undertaker had the greatest wrestling match ever. You can't say that about somebody who's underrated. JBL, and I mentioned this in one of our previous videos that we put out this week, said Shawn Michaels is what, 6-10 at WrestleManias or whatever the case is. Nobody really remembers the losses because you remember the matches. How can you even say that? How can you say that? Yeah, he wasn't rated highly enough. And Bret Hart, the professional of professionals, who took it serious, it was real. Everything about Bret Hart is wrestling. How is that overrated? This is a profession in which he grew up in, and he protected the business and attempted to do that, aside from going to Dave Meltzer and spilling the beans on the Montreal Screwjob. But it's not here nor there. He was brought up in it. I would like to hear another wrestler of that ilk say that Bret Hart was overrated. So FTR, the best wrestlers, the best tag team wrestlers today, they rave about Bret. So they're wrong. Sid, they're wrong. So many holes I can poke into this. Again, I respect a personal opinion. Uh, I'm a Bret Hart fan, so of course, I'm gonna kind of be biased and brush this to the wayside a little bit, but I will give um, credit for Sid to having the guts to say it, and he's giving his opinion, and I absolutely love how he does. This is his truth. This is his truth. I'm not gonna argue your truth. You know, I appreciate you sharing. It was a decent article. Um, I just think that it's flawed and partially biased because again, yeah, you worked with the man. Of course, you're gonna say that. Of course, of course. If you said that Shawn Michaels was overrated and Brett was underrated, again, that would be like the Scottie Pippen deal. LeBron's better than MJ. What? Neither one of them is true. Neither one of them is true. When you have Vince McMahon in your back pocket, how can you be underrated? I'm just saying. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Please like the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I'm Donnie Wonderful. I will return shortly with another tangent, which I don't know. This one right here, I'm surprised my blood pressure didn't get worked up. Anyway, I'm off to the next one. Take care, guys.